In this video we are going to take a closer look at one of the most iconic Space Marine troops of them all, the Intercessors. Long since rumored to one day replace the Firstborns entirely, how true is that for the Deathwatch these days? First we will take a look at their datasheet, abilities and war gear. Then we will go through how to specifically make use of them in a Deathwatch army. Lastly, there will be some modeling recommendations and a quick wrap up. This release is the final part of a mini-series on the Fortis Kill Team, which will cover all the units available to that kill team. Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer, and I will be guiding you through this video. Ever since the domination of Space Marines in the later stages of 8th edition, the whole Primaris vs Firstborn debate has been a hot one. Back then, things did not look good for Firstborns overall. Basic troops choices in particular, where Intercessors with an extra wound and attack just seemed like the overall better deal. However, things changed in 9th edition when Firstborns got boosted to 2 wounds, and the impact of this is even greater in the Deathwatch. When we compare the datasheets of the Intercessors and the Deathwatch veterans, their stats line is now identical, with the veterans even rocking an extra point of leadership. The main reason for this parity is of course that the Deathwatch army only consists out of veterans, and on the tabletop this means that the Firstborn Deathwatch veterans have the extra attack built into their profile. For some reason, GW never followed up on this for the Primaris, and as a result, Intercessors remain the default Primaris troops choice instead of introducing Deathwatch Primaris veterans. But hey, maybe one day. So anyway, getting back to what we have available with the same base cost, if we compare a default loadout, we have the bolt rifle on the Intercessors versus the Deathwatch bolt gun and the chainsword, which are both free war gear choices. Essentially, a bolt rifle is equal to a Deathwatch bolt gun loaded with Kraken bolts. This is the second part where Primaris really got the short end of the stick in the Deathwatch, the loss of special issue ammunition. Now obviously, the Intercessors can pick between 3 different bolt rifles, but the Deathwatch veterans can pick between different ammo types, including damage 2, and they have the chainsword on top of that still. Or they can go for the other free loadout, the Deathwatch shotgun, which has a lot of interesting options. Not to mention all the other war gear available for extra points. But anyway, I don't want to stretch this comparison endlessly. My point here is simply how absolutely amazing Deathwatch veterans are and how this heavily devalues Intercessors when compared to other Space Marine chapters. Focusing once more on the Intercessor Squad, what do these guys have going for them? As I previously mentioned, they can pick between 3 different bolt rifle variants. While all 3 of them are currently viable, the assault variant is seeing the most competitive play, a mixture out of volume of fire and mobility trumping the other options. For every 5 Intercessors, you can also get an Astartes grenade launcher, which is a solid pick for its 5 points. Whenever I end up with 5 spares, I take it, though it's also one of the first things I cut when I need to squeeze in something else. We then also have a variety of war gear available to the Sergeant, including the Power Fist and Thunder Hammer, which can be a good option, though at 10 and 20 points, they are harshly priced when compared to their Firstborn Sergeant counterparts. What I would certainly not take is the Plasma Pistol, as you don't want to blow up the best model in the squad when overcharging. For keywords, they are of course core, they are Primaris and Intercessors, with the latter 2 opening up interesting options for stratagems. They get access to Transhuman, which is one of the few advantages over the Deathwatch veterans, and they can also rapid fire, which allows them to shoot twice. In fact, very early into 9th edition, what we occasionally saw popping up in competitive play was a full squad of Intercessors equipped with with Stalker bolt rifles that would then combine the rapid fire and special issue loadout stratagems, certainly a brutal but also pricey combo at 4 CP. But anyway, lists have moved on since then, and Intercessor squads have entirely disappeared from competitive play in the Deathwatch. With these basics covered, then how can we best use them in the Deathwatch? As a rule of thumb, I recommend to never take them as an actual Intercessor squad, but instead go for what they uniquely offer to the Deathwatch: access to the Fortis Kill Team. As I covered extensively in my guide to the Fortis Kill Team, which I linked in the description, they are the mandatory tax to pay for that particular kill team, allowing you to fill up with Outriders, Hellblasters or Assault Intercessors, though the latter are not worth it, for reasons I have covered in an entire video dedicated to them. One thing to pay attention to here are keywords. Intercessors in a Fortis Kill Team lose the Intercessor keyword, and with that access to the previously mentioned rapid fire stratagem. As this stratagem would not work on other datasheets anyway, even if Intercessors kept their keyword, it would not really be worth it on just 5 guys. But anyway, in case it comes up, it's not legal to use the stratagem while they are part of a Fortis Kill Team. Nonetheless, where Intercessors truly shine is their interaction with mixed units in the kill team. For the Outriders, being paired with at least one Intercessor is enough for them to get the infantry keyword, which allows them to interact with terrain as such. Or in case of the Hellblasters, the Intercessor can act as ablative wounds, adding to their survivability. And lastly, even if you decide to just combat squad the 5 Intercessors, they can still act as objective holders. All in all, they are not a terrible unit by any means, just outclassed by Deathwatch veterans, but if you need the second half of the Fortis Kill Team, the tax you are paying is still worth having. I think in the Deathwatch, it's just an unfortunate combination of Deathwatch veterans being awesome and the Primaris line not having gotten a veteran-style treatment for troop battlefield role choices. With that being said, let's have a look at some modeling recommendations. The first thing that comes to mind here is dealing with the 3 bolt rifle types. While I'm usually encouraging what you see is what you get, I don't think that anyone is going to make a fuss about this particular case. They are difficult enough to tell apart for Space Marine players, not to mention anyone else. What I would recommend in either case is building them up with the same type in groups of 5, which is what you need for the Fortis Kill Team, and if anything, I would just model the Assault type for the time being, as it is most likely the one you will be using most. What I did for my own Intercessors is using the spare Assault Intercessor bodies for the more dynamic poses, and I just magnetized all arms, which allows me to freely swap between running them as Assault and regular Intercessors with whatever bolt rifle variant I have built. It's a lot of magnetizing work, but I found it to be quite practical in the sense that I didn't have to build that many of what I consider boring Intercessor models. What some people do is using Intercessor bodies for Deathwatch veterans, and in case you are magnetizing anyway, you can freely use them as either, depending on what loadout you slap onto them. Especially as a new player, this can help you getting started more easily, without having to buy an extensive amount of Deathwatch veteran kits, which come with far more weapons than bodies anyway. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have looked at the Intercessors and what challenges they face in the Deathwatch, namely their fierce competition, that is the Deathwatch veterans. While perhaps a bit outclassed in a direct one-to-one comparison, what the Intercessors still have going for them is that they are the mandatory tax for the Fortis Kill Team, which is great for giving unique benefits to Outriders or Hellblasters. When paired with Intercessors, Outriders gain the infantry keyword, or Hellblasters can benefit from having Intercessors act as ablative wounds. Out of the 3 bolt rifle variants, the assault version is the most commonly seen in competitive play, though all 3 of them are playable. If you happen to have 5 spare points, the Astartes grenade launcher is also a great addition. If you don't combat squad the Fortis Kill Team and have some outriders mixed into the deal, I would most likely also think about upgrading a sergeant with a thunder hammer. While slightly overcosted when compared to Firstborn sergeants in a Fortis Kill Team, it packs a solid punch in a kill team that would otherwise be limited to chainswords and fists. All in all, I recommend having roughly 10 intercessors at hand for a Deathwatch army, which allows running between 1 to 2 Fortis Kill Teams in a competitive composition. So that's it for the intercessors in the Deathwatch. How are you guys running these? And if you don't, what other kill teams are you going for instead? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.